Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and today's patient is a Pauly M5. So I was contacted last week about this one. Customer, he's had the car pretty much from new and it started to play up recently. It'll start and then shut off again. There is a code, an internal code. I think it was 96 they said, which comes up to 150 in decimal, and the majority of those 150 codes, 150, 151, there are a lot of internal faults and they can normally be pretty bad news. So we're going to have a look at this and see what's going on. So I've got him hooked up to our power supply and our breakout, and we'll hit him on. Drawing 0.5 amp, which is about right for one of these. And we're going to have a look now in INPA and see what's going on. So we want to go engine, 8-cylinder, MSS 5.2, which is our V8. Okay, and we're in. We have details and our fault codes. Read them now. And that'll be the one. Right, exhaust gas temperature sensor, not a problem. That one there is going to be our issue. So 150 internal spiker test master. So let's just get closer to that. Okay, so there we go. We have internal spiker test master. Spiker is memory, or at least I believe it's memory. It works the same as memory. So that, in other words, is saying internal memory test master, and we have it spotted. It's 7 times. It says it's currently present, and right, that is good. If I tilt this and we get down, we have ROMs well up manipulation. So that is looking like it might be something more to do with the external memory. If that was RAM, then we'd probably have some problems because the RAM is built into the processor. But ROM is our external ones, and we also have manipulation as well. So that could be a software glitch. So I think we'd better have a look at the software next before we start taking this thing apart. So here are some of the fault codes you can get out of the MSS 52 and 54. And we have the 150 DME memory fault, 151 DME fault driver, a communication one. The driver one might not be too bad because that might be something external. I think there's a bunch of other ones. We have some other internal indexes which aren't exactly explained. I have a feeling there were some others. Oh, there's like a processor check. That would be a bad one. So usually it's a case of a lot of these Siemens ECUs, their codes dotted around the 150 are often internal ones to do with the processor. And when you hit one of those, normally it's game over. But in this case, I believe, because I have checked into, before this turned up, I did check into that 151, and a lot of people were getting a RAM issue, and I was thinking it was going to be a RAM fault, and that is inside the processor. So that's going to be quite a problem. But this one's turned up with ROM, so I believe 150 covers any memory fault, and it might then say in the extra details whether it's be RAM or ROM or whatever. But luckily we've got ROM, so we're going to give it a read now. And this is where the program, fortunately you can't get this anymore. This was made by a guy called Kim Fredding, who was from Norway, I believe, and he used to make these great bits of software. I've got a few of them. I've got this one, which is the MS5X flasher, which does a bunch of the Siemens M1s. There was an old one for the MS41s, and I've also got one to take off immobilizers on some various ones. But he passed away a good few years ago now. So what I'm going to do, anyway, while we've still got the software working, I am going to do a full read, and we're going to have a look at the contents of this ECU. File has been read and saved now, and just comparing them against one that I have with a similar number. So you can see up here this number starting with 2113 and ending in D4A4. That's almost like a fingerprint for various ones of these files. So I found one that is going to be the matching software number. And I see we have the word Superchips in there. So this one has had some tuning done at some stage, and it is possible that a checksum, I guess, could do something along these lines. So if the data was edited and the checksum wasn't corrected, there's a good chance that ECU could pop up with something and say, look, there's something up with our ROM and a check of our memory. So that's something I'm going to have a bit of a look at. And hold the phone, we've just got something a little bit better. So looking further into that, I came across a very slight change that's stuck in the middle of the program code. So this area up here, this is all part of the program code, and it's almost like the operating system of this ECU. And in an original, we have this byte here, which is 70. That is byte 1BFCE by the looks of it. And in our other one, we have 71. So that's something that is piquing my interest a little bit there, as unless someone's been super clever and they've been rewriting the program code and just this one digit there does something, that might be what we've got. So I'm going to have a closer look now at that and see what exactly is going on. If that has just jumped or whether it was always programmed wrong, but we've got something there that's pretty interesting. So it's time to dive in a little bit deeper. I've had a look at the rest of the software now, and nothing else is standing out. It's the usual tuning shenanigans in there. So none of that stuff would be any cause of concern apart from that byte that has seemed to have changed. And this, I guess, is our first look into this ECU. So we have two processors and two flash memory chips. This is our master one, and this is the memory chip it's complaining about. So this is one that we're going to be having a look into. We've got other stuff down here. These should be coil drivers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So yeah, I think those are going to be coil drivers. The injectors were, I think, these two ones that are that ever so slightly different color. That sort of grayish brown. Various other components are going to be triggered by these ones. These are all sort of fairly high current drivers to switch stuff on and off. So fuel pump, maybe not fuel pump. I think that might go through a relay. Evap canister, throttle body, Vanos and stuff. They're going to be fairly high current. Yeah, some of these will be Vanos. I imagine maybe there's I don't know whether these are two of them. Oh dear. Sorry about that. It was a birthday earlier on today, and she's been out earlier. So we have, I think these ones, I think were Vanos. That is a map sensor. That's a pretty hefty one. So I guess I don't know why it's that big, really, to be honest. Maybe they couldn't find anything more miniaturized. But this is what I want to have a look at, because that's just pretty unusual for a byte to change like that. These chips shouldn't really been able to be written to by this ECU as a whole. They shouldn't be able to do it unless it's kind of commanded when you're doing some programming. So there is various stuff in here where fault codes are stored. I think that's going to be actually internal to these processors. Fuel adaptions and so on. Immobilizer rolling code will be all stored in the EEPROM. But these memory chips should never change. So the fact that there's a byte different in there suggests that something's going on. Now, it might be some sort of just a one-off glitch. I do see that every now and again where sometimes you have issues and a byte just changes. There's some of the EDC 16 2-litre diesel BMWs that I've noticed they glitch, and I've come across a few, and they all have the same two numbers swapped to the same two different numbers, and it kind of bricks the ECU. But something odd is going on with that, and I want to get that off, and I want to check that in another programmer. We've got the chip in our socket now, and we're going to have a look and see what it is. So it's a 29F200. So we select that. It says an adapter, which we've already got, and we click read. And it's reading away. Okay, so I'm going to save that file. I'm going to have a look at it. So I've done another verify on that to make sure the read is good. I've done a byte swap to turn it into a format that makes it a bit more familiar to what I'm looking at. Check that against the OBD read, and I've corrected the glitch, re-imported it, swapped the byte order back. So now what we're going to do is we're going to write that into the chip and see what happens. So I hit the program button. We should be ready to go. Device isn't blank. Yep, go ahead. And let's see if this completes. So program first off and then a verify. And it verified. And just there is our byte. So we now have that 70 instead of 71. So it has written it in and it has worked. So one of the things I was expecting, or at least I was preparing myself for, was if there was a faulty memory address and some of these transistors had blown and you couldn't generally change the byte. Time to get a little bit nerdy now with our rocket scientist, and we're going to be looking at bits and bytes. So 70 is what we wanted and 71 is what we had. Now if you look there in binary, this is how that memory is stored inside the ECU. These are the raw zeros and ones, and the difference between them is just that very last bit is different. So should have been a 0, and that somehow flipped to being a 1, turning it to 71, which screwed everything up. So that's pretty unusual why something like that would happen. There was talk of cosmic rays. In fact, in some cases, there was a Mario 64 speedrunner who came across some weird glitch that had never been done before, never happened since. No one could figure out how, and it was put down to, again, one bit changing from, I don't know, it was a 1 to a 0 or a 0 to a 1, and he ended up then finishing the level in record time. So it's probably not going to be something as crazy as a cosmic ray, but something would have had to have caused that thing to flip. It's likely that it might be just age, as these memory chips, they won't last forever. There is a certain data retention time where they know where some of these things can swap. But yeah, somehow a 0 turned into a 1. And we'll check now and see if that's our problem. Who knows? Maybe it was a cosmic ray that went and hit our chip. Oh, come on, guys. It's not that boring. I've got the pad cleaned up now and a chip in place, facing the right direction. So we're just going to solder him back in. So first thing I'm going to do, tack a leg. I'll just do this one in the corner. And nudge that chip there. Let's get him looking good. Another tack up this side. Check our positions. And we're good to go with the rest. And there we go, all soldered back. So now we've got to fire him up and see if we fixed the problem. And now the moment of truth. We have our current draw, all nominal. We have our input lead, and in our fault codes, we still do have our internal memory master. Let me just zip up a little bit. But That's now gone to 6. And here we have failure moment nicht vorhanden, which is fault currently not present. So that seems to have done our job. So I'm going to clear that now. Go back, clear fault codes, reread, and it looks like it's gone. So our first one there is to do with our throttle pedal, brake light switch, that's cruise control. Have we got anything in there to do with? No, we don't. We don't have anything left now. Internal memory faults. So we have it. We've got it done. So there we go. Who knows what that was? We had in this little chip, one of the bits, one of the ones in the zeros had just flipped. 0 to a 1. Why? No idea. It could have been a just manufacturing, could have been age, but who knows? Could have been a cosmic ray. So, could this have been fixed any other way? Well, WinKFP probably has a good chance of actually sorting that out. So WinKFP is able to reprogram the ECU, and the memory inside of them is divided into 2 sections. You have the program area, which is kind of like the operating system, and the data area, which is where all the maps are. Now, in this case, our glitch was up in the program area, and it's not always guaranteed that WinKFP would rewrite that section. If it wasn't needed, it would just carry on and just write the data area. So there is a button here in the configuration, and that one there, force program programming in comfort mode, that is able to set it up so it will rewrite the program area if it's needed or not. And in this case then, that would have rewrote that section. So that could have likely have sorted everything out, but I really wanted to have a look at that chip and make sure our little transistor gate for that one particular bit wasn't jammed or stuck or anything like that. But it's all working out fine, so there we go. So thanks for watching, everyone. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.